Hello and welcome everyone to another StarCraft 2 England cast. Today I have got a game which is slightly unusual actually. It's between a High Masters player on the EU server called Highlow and another Masters player called LeMei, who is the Blue Zerg, and obviously Highlow is the Red Terran. Now, the reason this is an unusual game is you've probably never heard of either of these two players before. Highlow actually sent me this replay, and he is a member of a StarCraft community called Mixed Fruit. Now, Mixed Fruit was started by a player called Gyroscope, and basically the entire purpose of it is to promote kind of free coaching, a community which helps itself. So players help coach each other, they help get games, they find practice partners, they even run a weekly, it's not weekly, they run a tournament quite frequently. And basically it's a really great group of people, and it's growing really well. And when I started upcasting, I didn't just want to do pro games, because I mean pro games, they do get a lot more of the attention and they are kind of the real tip-top players, but I also wanted to give some of these kind of emerging players and emerging communities within the StarCraft scene the opportunity to get exposure. So that is exactly why I'm going to cast some of the games, and why I do say that if anyone has any games, be it either low-level games they'd like analysed, or even kind of high-level games where they just think they're awesome games, then please send them to me. Either tweet them to me, and that is sc2_England on Twitter, I mean with a link to game, that's ideal, or email them to me at sc2england@hotmail.co.uk, and if I do have time I will try and cast them, because obviously I think it's really good to see real players, real people who aren't getting paid by pro teams, aren't sponsored or anything like that, competing. And I mean that's what StarCraft's all about, that's why we all play it, that's why we all enjoy it, and while you get a lot from watching people play, I mean people enjoy watching amateur sports as much as they do as professionals. So hopefully this game is going to be awesome. I am really looking forward to it, and by all means please guys check out Mixed Fruit if you are on the EU server. It is absolutely fantastic. They've got a website, give them a Google. Also if you're on Twitter, check out Gyroscope. I can't actually remember his Twitter ID, which is probably really bad. I should have had that written down somewhere, but if you do follow me on Twitter, he's on there on mine. It is Mixed Fruit Gyroscope. I'll link him into the tweet I do about this video anyway, so if you are watching this, get on my Twitter and you'll get all the information. So we will see that it's a pretty standard opening from Highlow. He's just gone for the barracks, he's getting that one gas, actually getting a command center straight after the barracks, so slightly kind of adventurous build, going very economical, but so is LeMei. He's got that expansion out, he's got his spawning pool up, and got that one gas. So I mean, a lot of Zerg players do favour actually leaving off this gas, because you don't massively need it to defend. You can defend without it, and by skipping the gas you get a lot of minerals really early on, which allows you to get more drones up. You can defend with spine crawlers, and I mean it gets you in a great economical position. You can also go macro hatch or a third, but LeMei just choosing no, I'm going to get some gas, has now hit 100. Will be interesting to see if he does go for that speed straight away, and what he does after that. He's actually getting a second gas as well now, so that speed isn't yet coming out, and again it could just be because he's got distracted, but he's moved some of his harvesters off. Actually only got one left in this gas, getting his speed and the roach one down now. Meanwhile we will see Highlow getting this factory out, and it's going to be a reactor Hellion play, and I mean the one interesting thing is most pro games you will see the Zerg player defend reactor Hellions with speedlings and spines and queens, and that's good. However, defending Hellions with speedlings is quite micro intensive. You've got to get this around, you've got to engage well, engage on creep, etc. Roaches offer a quick solution to Hellions. You only need a couple of roaches to deal with a lot of Hellions. So again, if you're a lower level Zerg player, it can be a good solution if you are taking a lot of damage from reactor Hellions early on. Now, meanwhile, we will see actually a third command center come out from Highlow. So Highlow's going for a 3 command center build. Is going to float down his natural now, which is already an orbital command now. Getting this really early third command center means you can get that third orbital command down. You can get those mules going super quickly. You can get good SCV production. And economically you're in a great spot. Now, Highlow is just getting those 3 roaches out, and to be honest, I don't think he needs too many more than that at this stage. Just a couple of roaches are enough to deal with pretty much all Hellion pressure short of an all-in. But, I mean, LeMei, this is a game where some Zerg players should steer clear of roaches. You don't want to overcommit to them. Roaches are very, very supply heavy, and while they're good in kind of small numbers in the early stages of the game, once tanks are out, they become pretty bad actually. And I mean, against mech they do have some use depending on the composition, but generally unless you do see mech, you want to only just get a couple of roaches, if any at all, to deal with the Hellions. So obviously by getting these roaches, Highlow won't be able to do anything with these Hellions at the moment. Just getting a bunker down, he's got his natural down, and obviously he has got this third orbital command, which will allow him to get a really, really good economy really, really quickly. Meanwhile, LeMei not really doing anything other than droning up, getting his third base out just now. So basically Highlow's in a good position here because he does have this orbital command, and that's really key for the SCV production and the mules. So he's going to be in a good spot. That bunker is coming down as well, so he's going to be in a good defense position. Does have stim and combat shield on the way, getting down his second gas as well. Meanwhile, LeMei just still on one gas, getting the second one down now. Has got double evolution chambers coming out, getting his third gas as well. We'll probably see a fourth gas pretty soon. And again, he's missed quite a few already, and I mean that's something all Zerg players should work on, is especially at this early stage in the game, LeMei hasn't had any pressure put on him. Very, very little. Missing injects this early in the game does actually have kind of quite an exponential effect, because you're not getting out. If you take a look at LeMei's money, it's already quite high. He needs to be getting out those drones, and he needs the lava in order to deal with it. Later on in the game, not so much. You've got a lot of bases, and injects are obviously still very important, but in these early stages of the games, when you're not being pressured, you should be hitting every one of them. So if you are a Zerg player, make sure the one thing you get down really, really well is when you're unpressured early in the game, where you're not stressed, you're not having to worry too much, get those injects sorted perfectly. Now, I did just hear something. It's carrying over from Highlow's base. He is now moving out this third base, and I believe he's going to go and try and float it over using this marine to scout round, and that's just a really, really good move. But actually LeMei is going to send in some Zerglings. They will get in. They may actually even be able to pick off a SCV or two. Again, it's just minor losses, but no, not going to actually get into SCV, but that's absolutely fine. Got some scouting information, and that is what Zerg players always need, is a lot of scouting information. If we actually switch to Mealy's cam, you will see he has no idea what's going on here. I would have loved to have seen him use one of these overlords he's got positioned to just run in and basically sacrifice it to know what's happening in the base, because if you don't know what your opponent is doing, and you had no idea that third command center was down, he doesn't know about the factory with tanks out, you can guess what's going on, but it's the hard facts which allow the Zerg player to know when you can drone and when you can build units. I mean, if you look here, how long have these units for LeMei been out? They've been out for a long, long time, and they have done nothing. They are completely wasted resources and supply, which he could have used on drones, because he hasn't needed them. They are there as a safety net. LeMei has that perceived threat of danger, and I mean, he's going to clean up these Hellions incredibly easily, but he doesn't have enough stuff to actually go and counter-attack. So this is all wasted supply, purely because he thought he was at risk of being attacked. Now that kind of thought of being attacked comes from not knowing what is going on in here, and why sacrificing an overlord periodically, or just poking at the front, or a combination of both, means that you know when you're safe or not, and therefore you can drone when you are, and then only build army when you need to. Now obviously LeMei is playing well, don't get me wrong, he's doing generally a good job, he's got a good composition, going to take out these rots, but I think Highlow is in a good position here. He's ahead in supply, he's got a nice wall up here, and this marine is obviously giving him all the information he needs, moving in with those Hellions, but the roaches are going to run in, and this is actually a good position for LeMei. He's going to get us around with those Zerglings, and the Zerglings are, I do believe, 1-1, if we take a quick look, if I can get one of them at all. Yeah, it is 1-1 Zerglings, and 1-0 roaches to 0-0 and 1-0. So again, upgrade wise, both players could possibly going a bit more, especially LeMei. He could be getting a lot more upgrades. I mean, he's got halfway through melee attack level 2 and also ground carapace. And the other thing you'll notice LeMei has got is an awful lot of resources, especially gas, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of Zerg players favour holding off getting their gas, because they don't actually need it until you get up to lair tech, where you start getting infestors, which he's only just getting out now. I mean, you can dump a lot of it, but he's just made 7 infestors and still has some off. But Again, that's kind of minor points. These are minor adjustments you need to be doing in your play and seeing, well, if I've got a lot of gas in the mid game, sure, it means that I can get out a lot of stuff, a lot of gas heavy units, but it also means that up until that point you haven't been getting kind of the maximum utilization of the resources you do have in the early game. So again, both players are just playing quite defensively, neither wants to commit, and that is something you can get quite a lot, is this lack of engagement. And I mean, LeMei's build would have been fine if he put on more pressure, but because he didn't put on more pressure, that army was wasted. Now, what I'd love to see him do is just kind of prod around, poke, see if he can. I mean, he's not going to be able to attack this from. These tanks are here. He also, Highlow has actually moved one of his tanks to the high ground. Personally, I think he should have kept the tank up there, but it is for this push. Now, this could actually be something which is very dangerous. He's moved out, and a good fungal growth is going to go off, and again, LeMei is going to do a good job of cleaning up, throwing some infested terrans. Infested terrans are very, very good against siege tanks, because they can either soak up the fire or do a lot of damage. But I mean, LeMei just running those infestors back, which is great. You want to keep the infestors alive, they are very, very gas heavy. But Highlow will be able to clean this up. And if we go to the loss tab, I mean, that actually came off worse for LeMei. He would have been better sending one Zergling in, just seeing what Highlow was doing. Because by engaging head-on into that army, he did come off quite badly. And now, while he has got this 4th gold base up, it's not going to be up for long, and if it is, it's going to be under a lot of pressure. You can have a hard time defending it. And Highlow's done a great job of spreading out all of his units. Those fungal growths become a lot less effective because the Marines are spread. There aren't any banelings on the field though, so that's kind of one advantage for Highlow. Good tank spread, getting the tanks positioned evenly out. And I mean, LeMei again is engaging this and pushing it back, and this is what he needs to do here. He doesn't want Highlow getting that mid-ground position, because if he got tanks here, this 4th base would go down. Meanwhile though, Highlow is just able to defend this, and this is where LeMei got slightly greedy in what he was doing. He saw an opportunity to do a lot of damage, or perceived an opportunity to do a lot of damage. He just killed the army, he basically carried it on, but he lost a lot in the process. He would have been a lot better realising he's pushed Highlow back, and just kind of grouping up, getting those upgrades, which he is getting. He's getting 3-3 and adrenal glands and an ultralisk cavern from that hive tech he got up. So he's in a good spot. He's got a lot of tech and he's got quite high money. Highlow's definitely doing a better job in his macro at the moment. He's spending all of his money incredibly well. He's not got a trust fund built up, and that's why his supply count is so much higher. And I mean, if we look at LeMei, he has actually brought the kind of units lost tab back a bit. So those cost-effective engagements with the fungal growths are very, very good. Highlow, again, he is pumping up his Marines, and when you know infestors are out, you want to try and avoid that. It is APM intensive, but it just means that if the Marines get taken down and dealt with by fungal growth, these Zerglings can come and counter-attack and do huge damage. So again, LeMei is just going for it. He is getting success, but if you notice, he's dealing a lot of damage, but he's taking a lot of damage, because at first he had that critical mass where he could take out all of those Marines, he could take out the tanks, but then he started kind of getting lower numbers, and when he gets on those lower numbers, the Terran player is able to kind of bring it back and win the fight in a cost-effective way. So LeMei would have been better there, just pulling back, dealing that initial damage, and then pulling straight back. And if you look now, Highlow's taking advantage of the fact and actually going for a drop. And this will be quite effective because, I mean, LeMei doesn't actually have any units. There's a second drop going in on the main as well, and I like this from Highlow. This is really, really good play. By doing this kind of double drop, it means that LeMei either has to split his army or only deal one at a time and take a lot of damage as a result. Now, because he's had to wait, now, actually a big fungal growth could go off. Now, this is purely because he didn't keep any infestors with energy, but that's fine. I mean, it is a minor thing, but it could have allowed him to deal with the drop better. Now, if we actually take a look there at what did happen there, I mean, LeMei lost a lot, and I actually think workers killed. Yeah, Highlow killed 26 workers there, which is obviously very, very good. If we go and have a look, though, this is what's making LeMei get behind, is his drone count now. It's 80 SCVs to 58 drones. That is never a position you want to be in. And LeMei, as a result of this and this pressure, has thought, oh my god, I'm behind. And he's got into this perpetual stage of building more units. He's getting a lot of ultras out, a lot of Zerglings, a lot of infestors. Because of that, he's not building drones to replace those he's lost, which means he's getting behind. So while he has got this somewhat deathball army, and it's 3-5 infestors, 3-5 Ultras rather, with Infestors out. Now, Ultras are actually very good against Terran if you get good fungal growths off. They're bad in attacking positions like this, because the tanks are spread out, they can do a lot of damage, the Marines are spread out, so won't get caught up by the fungal growths, and LeMei will be able to push forward, but he's going to take heavy damage, and I mean, he's got to do this. He's got himself into a position by not building drones, but if you look at how quickly LeMei is losing supply and losing his money, I mean, Highlow's got a lot banged up, and that was a great fungal growth there, just because Highlow pumped up his Marines. There's not much you can do about it there, but I mean, it's given LeMei the opportunity. Now here, if you notice, LeMei has just done a lot of damage, but behind this he's building up a lot more units, and he's attacking this planetary fortress. He would be a lot better at this stage if he had moved back. If you look now, he's done it again what he did earlier. He's tried to be greedy and go for it. These SCVs can repair this planetary fortress. LeMei is essentially losing a good half of his remaining army because he thought he could do more damage. He'd done a lot of damage. Highlow is in a bad position. He'd lost most of his army. LeMei had a lot of Infestors, a lot of Ultras up. But because LeMei is still going for it, trying to put the pressure on, he's going to lose his army because Highlow has resupplied brilliantly and is in a strong defensive position. And I mean, there's just so many medevacs there, and these Ultras will get cleaned up. And Ultras in high numbers with Infestors are very effective, because the fungal growth means that the Infestors, the Ultralisks can get in and deal that splash damage to the infantry. But in small numbers, Ultralisks aren't effective, and I mean, Highlow's been playing very well by getting those Marauders in. And he is actually mined out. I would like to see, rather than building these command centers around here, it would be good if, like LeMei's doing, that Highlow actually just went for some more expansions. I mean, if you look at his money, he's got a lot of resources remaining, so he could have literally expanded and even just kept a couple of Marines around or something like that. But again, LeMei, if we take a look, has built nothing. Has kind of re-got his drones up, and that's really good, but is again just focusing on building army. And he has built these 2 expansions, which are actually going to save him and keep him in this game for now. But imagine if he hadn't gone for that second push to try and take out this planetary. Imagine what his army would have been like now. He would have had so many more units in order to deal with this. And as you demonstrated here, Ultralisks aren't good in small numbers. So if he'd had those higher numbers of units, he could have done huge damage. He could have crushed Highlow's army here and literally walked in. But almost as if he's getting into the same pattern, he keeps thinking that he's got to go and win. And by doing that, he's continuing this push just with a couple of Ultralisks, and reinforcements are coming for Highlow, and I mean, they're going to get cleaned up, and they are going to do some damage, and really that's just a bad rally point by Highlow. But I mean, LeMei's doing a lot of damage here, but he's still kind of pushing for it, and if you look, he's only got 2 Ultralisks left, I believe. It may actually be 3, but only a couple of Ultralisks, and there are a lot of Infestors, but I mean, this is going to get cleaned up. I mean, Highlow shouldn't have any trouble defending this, because once that Ultralisk goes down, really there's hardly anything there, and I mean, Ultralisks don't path very well. There are more Zerglings and Ultras coming in, so it's good pressure by LeMei, and it's what he's got to do. He's committed to this push so much that he has to kind of just do something with it. These SCVs aren't actually doing anything, and I mean, a fungal growth could have gone off with them, but LeMei used all of his energy on infested territory to get some more out. But this is absolutely great defensive position, and Ultras are trying to attack up the ramp, and they're all going to go down. And I mean, this is great defense by Highlow, but what again LeMei would be very good doing here is again focusing on these counter-attacks. This is brilliant. This is taking out everything else there. But if LeMei had moved back, I mean, he's just lost all of those Infestors. If he pulled back, once he'd taken out this, and taken out all of this, if he just pulled back, he would have had all of his Infestors left, and he would have had a lot more Ultralisks. So, kind of a constant trend I'm seeing from LeMei here, is that he is attempting to win the game too often. And whereas he keeps getting an advantage, and rather than using that advantage and kind of just stepping back a bit, building up his economy, getting more expansions, and taking a really long-term dominant position in the game, he's trying to win. He's trying to end this game. And because of that, Highlow is just remaxing and never actually getting that final blow he needs. And I mean, again here, that Ultralisk instantly melts. There's some more Ultras coming in, but there's no Infestors because he lost all those Infestors earlier. and Hylow's actually going to deal with this very, very well. There's so many medevacs, and I mean, if we go to the loss tab, I mean, it is pretty much still in favour of Highlow, and just again, LeMei is losing a lot of units because he doesn't have that kind of critical mass, that 200 army. And while the supply is quite even, obviously as a Zerg player you need to almost be ahead in supply or have a very good tech armor. So that Infestor Ultra push he did at the very, very first one, where he had a lot of Ultralisks and a lot of Infestors, worked fantastically because they complemented each other. But now, I mean, really I'd say Hylow's in a dominant position here, and he's coming in with his drop, and LeMei just doesn't have the stuff to deal with this. He's getting some Ultralisks out, he's getting some Zerglings, but again, what LeMei is doing is he's having a real kind of oh shit moment, where I've got to go and attack with these Zerglings, and he rallied them all in to try and deal with it. He didn't have enough stuff. He was never going to win that fight, he was never going to delay that, stop that hatchery dying. But because he sacrificed half his army, by now, when these Ultralisks are popping, if he kept all of those Zerglings alive, just pulled back to be safe, he could have now dealt with this drop really, really easily and stopped this hatchery going down. So it's not a case of being greedy, but it's almost a case of, by trying to do too much with too little, you can get behind unless it works. You're taking a risk, and I mean, unless you're very, very confident you can do a lot, you're just going to lose. And here you'll see LeMei actually pulling all the drones and all of his stuff because he's mined out. He's lost this base as well through a drop. I must have missed going on. But effectively he's got no mining bases and he has to win now. And this is not a good position. He's not going to win this. He's just trying to go for it, but Hylow's won this game and there's the GG. So, I mean, if we go back to kind of various points in the game and just have a look at certain things, you'll get a really good idea of what's going on. I mean, I'll skip through this a bit faster just to get kind of a good feel. So straight away you will see, like, actually it's a bit further on than this before anything happens. It's a very slow starting game. But even in this position, look at these units. Okay, let's just look at the units tab for LeMei here. He's behind in SCVs already. This is ×8 speed, remember, so I'm sorry if it lags at all. But he's got these roaches, he's got all of these Zerglings out. They killed a couple of Hellions and they're still doing nothing. They're still doing nothing. It's been a good couple of minutes. Now they're moving forward. Right, so if I pause here, look at how long he had those units out. Probably a good 3 minutes, probably 3.5 minutes. Now, with that amount of time, he could have had more drones. He had no need for those units. Now, coming into this attack here, again, this is a good attack. I actually like this one. I mean, if it come earlier, it would have been even more effective because he had enough stuff to do this. He hasn't built significantly more, but because he waited, Highlow was able to get in a good position. Now, I think these tanks here were fantastic. There's no easy way for LeMei to deal with these. I would have liked to have seen one over here as well. If one tank was here and one tank was here, it's using the map's high ground to your advantage. It would have been very, very effective. But again, that's just a minor thing. It doesn't matter too much. Now, at this point, pausing here, you will see that Highlow has definitely got the advantage. 144 supply. He's on equal bases at the moment to LeMei, and he's just really, really in a good position. So, LeMei's effectively behind there. If we skip forward again to about 18 minutes, at this position, this is exactly where it kind of looks like, well, hang on, I think something else has happened before then. I'm just going to have to skip through this at ×8 speed to find the exact points I want, because I wasn't actually going to do this as the analysis game, but it's a really interesting game to highlight what LeMei did, which a lot of even very good players do, where they try and overcommit. So here, you'll see that LeMei is going for an attack. He cannot possibly win. He's come in, and he's scouted exactly what is going on. I mean, you can see there's a lot of tanks there, and he's got some good fungal growths off. He's got a good attack going. I mean, it looks very, very good to do, and he is going for it, and to be honest, it was quite a close fight, but it's still attacking into a defense position. Now, what did LeMei gain from that? Nothing. He lost a lot of units and didn't deal a critical blow. If he just waited up at this watchtower, waited for Highlow to move out, kept some units back for defense, then he could have crushed this army when the tanks weren't sieged. But because he went for it early, he's now got a problem, and Hylow's in a really, really strong position. Now, again, somewhat Highlow does this again, where also what LeMei does, where he's pushed when he didn't need it to. He could have actually sat back and been pretty much okay, but because he's moved out, he gets cleaned up. So At this stage, Highlow is kind of a bit behind, but if we skip again to the 20-minute mark, if we look here, Highlow is suddenly looking like he's in a great position again. And this is all due to the big push. But, I mean, look here, this is a death ball army. Look at this army, it can crush everything super easily. They're dealing with drops, just times 8ing it again. Now, Highlow has actually maxed out. But this army composition of LeMei is great. He's got a lot of stuff, and he's doing great fungal growth, he's moving forward, and he's actually going to clean up the much larger supply of Highlow pretty damn easily. And he's going to get everything. Now I'm actually going to stop right here. Actually a bit further on. Here. He's just cleaned up. He's gone from... He's lost very little. He's done a lot of damage to Highlow. He was behind, remember, and he's got rid of that 200 army. Now this is really where I think the battle changed. LeMei was ahead army-wise for a second. And if you look at Highlow, he's not actually got much stuff. He's in a good position, but I mean... LeMei chooses instead to just go in for this. I'm putting on times there again. And it just goes in attack. He tries to take out this planetary fortress, which is getting repaired, and he just loses most of his army. He's got very low HP ultras, they're not getting healed at all, there's no transfuses, he still just commits to it. And from that massive group he had to start with, he's now down to just 3 ultralisks. So, I'm going to stop it there, because I could literally overanalyze this very easily. The one key point I want everyone to think about is, that was a good game. That was a high Masters level game. And really, what caused that constant to and throwing was because LeMei tried to overcommit his attacks. He tried to win too often. If you do get an advantage, don't waste it by trying to be too greedy. Be greedy in expansions. Be greedy in spending your money, building up your army. But if you try and kill someone and you fail, you generally lose most of your army. Poke and prod by all means, but if you're not very confident you can just win, sometimes it's better to wait until kind of a minute later when you've got another round of units out. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Thank you to Highlow and obviously all of the Mixed Fruit community. I mean, if, as I said at the start, tweet me any games you would like me to cast, and I will try and do my best. You can get me at sc2_England, or email me the games at sc2england@hotmail.co.uk, and I will try and get them up. I mean, if they are lower level games, I will analyse them. If they're kind of master levels games, I will just cast them and give any points I can really see there. But thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Bye for now.